Hello, I'm Larry Myers, and welcome to MotoWorld. The 1990 Camel Supercross Series is being touted as the most exciting in the history of the sport. The excitement began in the season opener, and it just never stopped. Now, we'll begin this week's edition of MotoWorld with the final event of the series, Round 18, and you'll see what I mean. Heading into the final round, defending Supercross champ Jeff Stanton had a virtual lock on his second consecutive Supercross title. A ninth-place finish, and the crown was his. In the early laps, though, Stanton was after the win. He took the lead and held off Suzuki's Ron Tishner on the yellow machine, and former Supercross champ Johnny O'Mara aboard the green Kawasaki. Now, watching the action from just off the pace was Yamaha's Damon Bradshaw. The rookie from a fifth-place start wasted no time in moving through the front runners to catch Stanton. When he did, he quickly made the pass. Stanton, with a championship rather than a win on his mind, wisely let Bradshaw go, and it appeared the race was over. Enter Jean-Michel Bayle, who had suffered a miserable start but was on the gas. In short order, the French world champ caught and passed some of the best the U.S. has to offer. He then set his sights on Bradshaw. With 5 laps remaining, the French world champ caught the 17-year-old Yamaha ace. First, Bayle was content to follow. He studied Bradshaw's lines, looking for some kind of edge. When he felt the time was right, he tried the pass. Bradshaw held him off, and that's the way it went for the last 3 laps. Bayle probing, and Bradshaw slamming the door. Final lap, and everyone knew Bayle would go for the win. First, the setup, and here's the pass. When they crested the top, it was Bayle by a length, but not for long. Bam, and Bradshaw is back in front. For all practical purposes, the race and the 1990 Supercross Championship drive was over. But now watch Bradshaw's finish. Was that a cross-up, a crossover, or a cross-under? What a way to end the season. Bradshaw took the checkered flag, his 5th of the year, followed by Bayle. Stanton finished 6th to claim the Supercross Championship for the 2nd year in a row.
It's not the way I wanted to go out with a 5th or 6th, whatever I got, but tell you what, this right here means it all. They can go out there and win all the races they want, but I'm carrying this Camel right here, and that's the most important for next year. Who's got the #1 plate, not who won the most races.
Now tonight, you look like you were battling for a long time with Johnny O'Mara. Did that tend to wear you down?
No, it didn't wear me down. I just didn't feel real comfortable, and I almost threw it away a couple times. So I said, well, why throw it away for a championship? Just ride a smart race. And if I was up there and feeling good, I surely would have went for the win. But it all didn't feel real well to me. And hey, I'm up here with this #1 plate again for next year, and happy as can be.
The final standings look like this. Bayle, with 5 series wins, finished 2nd by only 5 points. Jeff Matasevich was 3rd, followed by Mike Kiedrowski and Jeff Ward in 5th. Now, the championship was decided. The race, however, despite the handing out of trophies, was still up in the air. An unofficial protest was filed against Bradshaw, claiming rough riding. Now, unofficial means a written complaint was given to the referee, probably just to feel things out. Let's listen to the riders involved and take another look at the incident.
He got a little better drive going up the hill, and we got to the hill. I had a little bit of a wheel on him, and I took advantage. I just went in there hard and moved him out of the way, and was hoping I was going to come out on top, and that's what happened.
I pass everybody, and I never push somebody, and I come back second, and after I try to pass him, and after the hill, I never push him. I just turn inside, and I left some place for him, and I pass him very clean, and he come back on me, and he pushed me very hard, and he hurt my knee, and after I tried to come back for try to take the lead, and he pushed me again. So I tried to finish behind him, but I've just 1 lap. But if he have another lap, I can push him again, but right now he's finished, so it's very bad for me.
Damon just told me about it. He said he had his wheel on him, and he wasn't going to let the Frenchman win. I don't blame him. If I was in his position, I'd have done the same thing. So each man for himself out there, and Damon came out on top.
And what did Bradshaw say to that?
It doesn't matter to me. Hopefully it won't go through, but you know, they can say whatever they say. They cried a lot last year about the passes I made, and I just want to win. I think Bayle had a couple chances to take advantage of me, and if I would have been in a position, I would have done it. I think he should have done it.
Well, I would be willing to bet we've not heard the last on that one. The protest resulted in a $250 fine for Bradshaw. Stay tuned to MotoWorld for more motocross action, the Baja 500, and the event that's #1 on everyone's mud parade, Blackwater 100. We'll be right back.
Endorsed by these companies. Call now. Reach a new high with your life. 1-800-225-1234. Call Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. Do it right. Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. Make the commitment now. Call the only motorcycle training facility in the country with these endorsements. Earn your entry-level certification. Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. 1-800-225-1234.
For 16 years, off-road specialists have trekked to Davis, West Virginia to take on the challenge of the Blackwater 100 cross-country race. As Chris Larson tells us, this year's rendition of the Blackwater was highlighted by an upset winner.
Nearly 500 riders and 20,000 fans showed up for the 16th annual running of the Blackwater 100. Some couldn't wait for the race and practiced in the campground area. When race time finally did roll around, anticipation for both competitors and spectators was at a fever pitch. The field that took the starter's flag was star-studded. Legendary off-road names like Summers, Rossler, Lojack, and Hyde were among the 500 or so challengers of the 1990 Blackwater. After a 2-year absence, the Route 93 crossing was reinstated to the 18-mile course. There, spectators watched and aided riders trying to make it up the slippery, muddy embankment. Most riders used the bike throwing technique. And if you or your bike didn't make it, you could always count on some outside assistance. The bogs were next. Quite tame this year, although they did claim their share of bikes and riders. The Blackwater event is made up of just about every possible type of terrain known to man. And both man and machine had to be equal to a lot of different tasks. That is, if you wanted to survive. The rider most up to the task, 27-year-old Thomas Norton, who was first across the finish line, upsetting all the veterans and factory riders. The KTM rider, in only his second attempt at the Blackwater, won on a 125cc machine, a Blackwater first. Here's the top 5 finishing order. After almost 4 hours in the saddle, Norton beat 4-time Blackwater champion Mark Hyde by less than 2 minutes. For his win, Norton received a $1,000 bonus check from KTM on the spot. One final note, in the winner's circle, Norton said no to the customary champagne, instead opting for, would you believe, a cup of coffee. Only at the Blackwater. Reporting from MotoWorld, this is Chris Larson.
Well, if Blackwater is the toughest off-road event in the Northeast, then the Baja 500 has to be the toughest off-road event in the Southwest. Steve Wise reports on the high-speed action of the 1990 Baja Desert Classic.
More than 50 motorcycles lined up early in the morning east of Ensenada for the start, a bike leaving the line every 30 seconds. Motorcycles and four-wheel ATVs faced a grueling test as they raced through a variety of challenges on the way to completing the 500-mile event. A flash flood caused problems for the bikes and the many four-wheel off-road vehicles also competing. The team of Larry Rossler, Danny Laporte, and Ted Honeycutt on a Kawasaki led through most of the day, choosing to start in the rear of the pack so they could keep an eye on bike number 666, Dan Smith and Danny Hamill. The two bikes were within minutes of each other throughout the race. In the 125cc class, Roger Hurd and Brett Howell piloted their Kawasaki to the front. In the race for the overall win, Larry Rossler was on the bike when he pulled into Ensenada in 7 hours, 7 minutes, and 37 seconds, just ahead of Danny Hamill.
With the rain that we had last night, really made conditions really good, and it cleared up today, just made for great racing.
The fourth man in this pack, Darrell Folks, was actually the first bike to finish in the 125 to 250cc class in just over 8 hours.
It always feels good to win in Baja or just to finish alone, but I'm really excited.
In the four-wheel drive competition, the Ironman Ivan Stewart led most of the day in his Toyota truck, but a late charge by Robbie Gordon in a Ford was the difference as he claimed the overall crown. The most dramatic scene of the day took place in the cab of Roger Mears' pickup as co-driver Tony Alvarez climbed over the engine to add power steering fluid and maintain their position in the close race. Reporting from Baja, Mexico, this is Steve Weiss for MotoWorld.
When MotoWorld continues, we'll head up to Canada for Superbike road racing and have our weekly tech tip from the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. MotoWorld will be right back after this.
Team Suzuki presents the MotoWorld Suzuki Event Calendar. I'll look at some...
Here's Dave Koshalik, Director of Training for the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute.
Don't let your friends call you a leaker. Fix that messy oil leak. Some leaks can be difficult to find. Here's a tip on how to find the exact location of your problem. First, Clean the motorcycle while it's cool with a safety greaser, like S100 or gunk. Hose it off and let it dry. Use an ordinary spray powder to coat the suspected areas. Start the engine. Your leak will soon develop as a wet spot in the dry powder. It'll make it easy to find. Now you can fix it right the first time, and your friends will stop calling you names. Next week, we'll cover cable lubrication. For Motorcycle Mechanics Institute, I'm Dave Koshalik.
The USA AMA Superbike Championship was off last weekend, so the focus of attention was north of the border in Canada. Pat Gonzalez reports on round 2 of the Canadian Superbike Series run this past Sunday in Nova Scotia.
This is Atlantic Motorsport Park, north of Halifax, Nova Scotia, on the eastern seaboard, and the site of round 2 of the Castrol Canadian Superbike Championships. Number 11, Michel Mercier, would start on the pole position. Pascal Picotte, number 21, would start second. And Jacques Gannett, number 999, hot off his 8th place finish at the AMA National at Loudon, would also start on the front row. And number 26, Lindley Clark on a Kawasaki, would start 4th. Missing from the grid were Ruben McMurder, who was still recovering from his World Superbike crash at Mosport, and Miguel Duhamel, who had broken his right ankle at Loudon. Off the start, number 11, Michel Mercier, grabbed the lead with 999 Jacques Gannett, 21 Pascal Picotte, 26 Lindley Clark, and number 15 Michael Taylor on a Kawasaki in the lead pack. At the end of lap 1, it was 11 Mercier with a slim lead over 21 Picotte, who was the only rider to stay with the 2-time Canadian Superbike champion over the early laps. Gannett 999 ran in 3rd, with Taylor number 15 running back in the 4th place position. Local star number 99, John Ramsey of Halifax, passed Lindley Clark, who had been in 5th on lap 5, and was closing on number 15, Mike Taylor, for 4th. Clark crashed heavily, however, in corner 5 while running in 6th, bringing out the red flag to stop the race. The race was deemed official with 2/3 of the scheduled distance complete, giving Michel Mercier his 2nd win of the season, with Pascal Picotte finishing in 2nd and Jacques Gannett taking 3rd place. Round number 3 in the series will be at Shannonville Motorsport Park in Ontario on Mercier's home track in late July, where his already growing points lead is expected to get even bigger. At the Castrol Canadian Superbike Championships in Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia, this is Pat Gonzalez reporting for MotoWorld.
Well, when we return, we'll head back to L.A. for more Supercross action, and Team Suzuki's Randy Hawkins will have his weekly trail tip. MotoWorld continues right after this. Now, earlier in the program, you saw action from the Camel Supercross Series. Bradshaw won the race, Stanton won the title, but that was just part of the season finale. Let's go back to LA's Memorial Coliseum for the wrap-up of the 125 Western Regional Crown and a $10,000 shootout.
Like the 250 class, the Western Regional 125cc Championship was all but decided prior to the drop of the gate. And for Ty Davis, the series leader, it's a good thing it was. When the front runners sorted themselves out, Davis was nowhere in sight. We'll find him in a moment, but first, let's look at the leaders. Jeff Emig, number 36, held early honors, but watch number 60, Buddy Antunez. Emig doubles, Antunez triples, and just like that, a new leader. But keep your eye on Antunez. This is the 125 class, and 125 riders are prone to make mistakes. See what I mean? Well, no harm done, just a couple of places lost. From that point on, Antunez made no more mistakes. The Suzuki rider turned on the gas, picked off the riders in front of him, and headed for the checkered flag. Meanwhile, back in the pack, Ty Davis, number 26, was fighting for his life. The Honda Privateer would eventually finish in 10th place to capture the championship with just a few points to spare. Buddy Antunez took the win, while Emig finished 2nd. Final standings in the 125 Western Region shows Davis on top, followed by Jeremy McGrath, who finished 3rd at the season finale, and Antunez in 3rd. That set the stage for the Camel 125cc shootout. The top 10 from the Eastern Series wearing orange vests and the top 10 from the West in blue went head-to-head with the individual winner taking home a whopping $10,000. Western rider Jeff Emig took the early lead, while Ty Davis, number 26, the newly crowned Western champ, and Eastern riders Jeremy Buell, number 58, and Doug Hand took themselves out of the running. Also absent from the running was the early season pick to win the 10 grand, Denny Stevenson. The Eastern Regional champ was on the sidelines with injuries.
Despite the absence of their star player, the Eastern Regional team outscored their West counterparts 116-99 to capture team honors. The big bucks, though, went to the West. Jeff Emig took top honors and the $10,000 check, followed by teammates Jeremy McGrath and Jimmy Button. MotoWorld salutes all of the Supercross champions. It was a long season, and honors won were richly deserved. And with that, the Supercross season is over. Now let's check in with Team Suzuki's two-time National Enduro champ, Randy Hawkins, for our weekly trail tip. Randy abides by the old adage, practice makes perfect when it comes to preparing for competition. Take a look and you'll see what I mean.
Hard work and practice helps sharpen a rider's skill. With the proper permission, there's a lot of great places to ride and practice. Let me show you some of my favorite practice areas. Motocross is a good practice for a trail rider because you never know when that type of obstacle can come up in a trail ride. I always like to find a tight wood section to help me with my hand and eye coordination while riding. A natural washout can be an excellent place to practice because the terrain is so untrue. As a National Enduro champion and trail rider, I feel that practice is a very important part of a weekly workout. Remember, your performance is always like you practice. For Team Suzuki, I'm Randy Hawkins. See you next week on MotoWorld.
Still to come on MotoWorld, Moto News from around the globe. Stay with us here on ESPN. MotoWorld will be right back.
MotoWorld is being brought to you in part by Yamaha, the hottest name in motorcycling, and by your local Yamaha dealer. Come see the race-proven FCRs and YZs today. Winners on and off the track. Yamaha, go your own way.
The new Cub, only from Honda.
Buckeye Nationals last week in, of course, Ohio, the Buckeye State. Now, our MotoWorld cameras were there to record the action. Mark McKay reports.
Like any high-performance gathering, the machinery on hand is usually pretty impressive. The IHRA Buckeye Nationals did not disappoint in that department. Pro Comp winner Dwight Selden and his Kawasaki Turbo was just one example of functional two-wheel exotica. The IHRA has a separate class for top fuel bikes with Harley-Davidson power plants called, appropriately enough, Top Fuel Harley. This man, Chuck Foreman, had dominated the class in 1990. This man, veteran Jim McClure, however, ended Foreman's win streak. McClure, in the near lane closest to the camera, had his Harley humming just a bit better than Foreman's. But as the day progressed, it became apparent that the right lane, or the one closest to the camera, had a distant traction advantage over the left lane. Case in point, Pro Stock semifinal. Ron Ayers in the good lane closest to the camera versus perennial Pro Stock powerhouse Dave Schultz. At the light, both react well, but Ayers is able to pull away from the former national champ to take the win and advance to the finals. Afterwards, Schultz confirmed everyone's suspicions.
No mechanical problems at all. He cut a little bit better light than I did, but the key to it was I lost lane choice the round before when I didn't run well. And the left lane's just not as good as the right lane, so I couldn't keep up with him. We spun like crazy off the starting line.
Pro Stock final, but this time it's Jim Bernard in the good lane on his blue and white Suzuki. Bernard qualified faster and therefore had lane choice. Ayer in the far lane knew he had to get a great reaction time to pull this one out. They start even, but Bernard is able to inch further and further away from Ayers as they head down the quarter mile. It's Bernard with the win, hitting the traps at 168.5 miles per hour and taking the lead in the IHRA Pro Stock standings. Now, just to prove to you that someone can win in the far lane, watch Elmer Trent of Demarest, Georgia in the Top Fuel Funny Bike Final. He not only defeated Larry McBride, but hit the traps at over 207 miles per hour. Congratulations to all the Buckeye National winners. Reporting for MotoWorld, this is Mark McKay.
Before we leave you today, some late-breaking news stories. We begin with a medical update on former dirt track champion Steve Eklund. According to Nancy Patrick of the New Mexico Trauma Center, Eklund remains in critical but stable condition. Eklund, who was injured at the June 17th Albuquerque Mile, has not regained consciousness since his crash and subsequent head injuries. Also on the mend is American motocrosser Billy Lyles. The Georgia native had been campaigning in the 500cc World Championship this year and was leading the standings when he suffered a broken right leg at the 6th round of the series in Italy. He is expected to miss the remainder of the season. With Lyles out of the picture, Belgian Eric Gabor swept both motos in Italy and took over the lead in point standings. Lyles was trying to become the first American rider to win the prestigious title since Brad Lackey in 1982. And that just about puts the wraps on another edition of Motor World. Join us next week for the highlights from the Road America Road Race National, the Lima, Ohio Dirt Track National, and a whole lot more. For all of us here at Motor World, I'm Larry Myers, reminding you to keep your wheels on the ground and your feet on the pegs. See you next week.
Motor World has been brought to you by Suzuki, who invite you to visit